Good morning. My name is Pat Lichtman, and I serve as trustee on your DuPage UU Church Board. We want to welcome everyone this morning to our open and inclusive virtual community. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and pledge to support one another as we explore these paths. We are so glad you were able to find us and join us for our live stream service today. Please check the church website at www.dupageUUchurch.org for updates. If you search under DuPage UU Church on Facebook, you will find a number of ways to be in community with us as well. We have 3 announcements. Today and each Sunday, join us for our Zoom social time following the service from 11:30 to 12. Socialize with friends and ponder a question from Reverend Connie as we break into small groups. We hope to see you there. The Zoom link can be found on the Members tab of our website, the order of service, and in the weekly email. Also today is Zoom with your board at noon. Your Board of Trustees would like to invite you to Zoom with your board today at noon following a social time conversation. Join your Board of Trustees on Zoom the first Sunday of every month for updates regarding the board's work towards goals you have helped define. We'd love to have you join us. Next announcement, Science Sunday today. We would love for you to join us today at noon for Science Sunday. Check the website for today's topic. Join with our YouTube link that appears on the church website homepage, the same link used to join this service.
Good morning. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come, let us worship together.
I light this chalice because I honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person, beginning with myself.
Join us in singing our opening hymn, number 118, This Little Light of Mine.
it shine everywhere I go. I'm gonna let it shine everywhere I go. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Please join in our spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
It is time to gather. Our new theme this month is about cultivating relationships or building relationships. And today we'll be talking about building a relationship with yourself by being true to yourself. And we'll start off with a story about a firefly named Torchy by Bernard Weber. On a warm night at the edge of the woods, a firefly was born. His name was Torchy. Eat your dinner, his mother would say when Torchy was just a little flicker, and someday you will grow as big and as bright as your father. Torchy did eat his dinner and did grow up big and bright. Everyone was astonished. His light was so bright. Whatever did he eat, the other fireflies wanted to know. Just the usual nectar, pollen, slugs, that sort of thing, Torchy's mother answered, but she was as surprised as the next firefly. Early each night, the fireflies came out to dance. They loved to show off their lights and flash secret messages to one another. They twinkled and glowed, and together made 1,000 chandeliers in the woodland. Torchy, too, wanted to show off, to twinkle and glow and flash messages. But when Torchy turned on his light, suddenly, just as bright as day, there was mouse, there was fox, there was rabbit, there was squirrel, there was possum, there was skunk, there was beaver, there was frog. And mouse looked at fox, and fox looked at rabbit, and rabbit looked at squirrel, and squirrel looked at possum, and possum looked at skunk, and skunk looked at beaver, and beaver looked at frog. And everyone was so surprised to see everyone. Click beetles fell on their backs, they were so surprised. Flowers with petals folded for the night unfolded again. Baby birds, thinking it was morning, cried to be fed. Earthworms, up for the evening, scrambled for cover. "Turn off that light," shouted Chickmunk. "Don't you know what time it is?" "Turn off that light," shouted Woodchuck. "Now I'll be tired in the morning." "Turn off that light," shouted other fireflies, hiding deep in the grass. "You are supposed to be softly twinkling, you know." "Turn off that light," everyone shouted at once. And Torchy turned off his light, and it was dark again. Everyone was happy. Everyone, except for Torchy. "If only I weren't so bright. If only I could softly twinkle like the other fireflies," Torchy sighed. "Nonsense," his mother answered from the resting place on top of a blade of grass. "Anyone can twinkle. All you must do is take your time about it. That's all. And when you are ready to twinkle, breathe deeply, think happy, twinkly thoughts." "Like this," said his mother, taking a deep breath. Magically, her golden light began at once to twinkle. "That's beautiful," Torchy exclaimed. "See," said his mother. "What did I tell you? Nothing to it, right? Now you go out and try it yourself. "Oh, I will," Torchy answered eagerly. And Torchy, said his mother, "just say to yourself, 'I can twinkle.'" "I can twinkle," said Torchy. "Say it again. 'I can twinkle.' Again. 'I can twinkle.'" "Good," said his mother, "and good luck." So Torchy went out again, and he remembered to take his time, and he remembered to breathe deeply, and he remembered to think happy, twinkly thoughts. And slowly, ever so slowly, he tried to twinkle. But when he did, suddenly as bright as day, there was mouse, and there was fox, and there was rabbit, and the squirrel, there was possum, and there was skunk, and there was beaver, and there was frog. And mouse looked at fox, and fox looked at rabbit, and rabbit looked at squirrel, and squirrel looked at possum, and possum looked at skunk, and skunk looked at beaver, and beaver looked at frog, and everyone was surprised all over again. Flowers unfolded their petals all over again. Click beetles fell on their backs again. Baby birds cried to be fed all over again, and the earthworm scrambled for cover all over again. "Turn off that light," shouted Chickmunk. "Turn off that light," shouted Woodchuck. "Turn off that light," shouted all the other fireflies. "Turn off that light," everyone shouted at once. Torchy turned off his light. It was dark again. Everyone was happy, except for Torchy. "If only I weren't so bright. If only I could softly twinkle," sighed Torchy. "Nobody is perfect," Owl spoke up. "Perhaps you weren't meant to twinkle." "But I want to twinkle," said Torchy. "Look at it this way," said Owl. "There are many kinds of light in the world. You should be mighty proud of yours, Torchy." "But I want to twinkle," said Torchy. "What is so special about twinkling? You can find twinklers anywhere." "But I want to twinkle," said Torchy. "Torchy, yours is like no other firefly light in the whole wide world. Do you know what that means?" "It means I can't twinkle," said Torchy. "And you want to twinkle," said Owl. "Yes," Torchy answered. "Think it over, Torchy," said Owl. And Torchy flew away to think. "Why shouldn't I twinkle?" he thought. "I'm a firefly, aren't I? Fireflies are supposed to twinkle, and that's what we're here for, to twinkle. Besides," he thought, "it's nice to twinkle, and it's fun to twinkle. Happiness is twinkling," he decided, especially for fireflies. And Torchy was still carried away in thought when suddenly he was surprised by many dancing lights off in the distance. "There must be 1,000,000 of fireflies out there," he exclaimed to himself. So Torchy decided to join them. Soon he was surrounded by lights, all manners of lights. Big lights, little lights, bright lights, dim lights, yellow, blue, green, orange, red, purple, and white lights. Dazzling, zooming, zipping, zigzagging lights, and yes, even twinkling lights. "It's true," thought Torchy. "There are many kinds of lights in the world. Why should I hide mine?" So Torchy flashed his brilliant light. He flashed and flashed and flashed. He flashed at building lights, bridge lights, street lights, and car lights. He flashed at the moon and the stars. He flashed all night long, and at last Torchy was tired. Tired, but happy. That on his way home, without even thinking, he began to twinkle.
Please join us for our song affirmation. Let all the beauty we have known illuminate our hearts and minds, rejoicing wonders daily shown, in faith and joy and love that binds.
We hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. We share the sad news that Ben Calvin, husband of Lynn and longtime member of this church, died yesterday afternoon after experiencing heart failure. A memorial service is being planned and the date will be announced. We remember those who are experiencing losses of various kinds and those facing health challenges. We are aware that many are faced with heightened difficulties presented by these times that continue to be challenging for all. Even when the cares of the world weigh on us, may we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways we can. As we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, let's take a moment to be quiet together.
Like the sun, I'm here to shine.
Like the voice, I'm here to sing.
Like the bird, I'm here to fly and soar high over everything.
Like the trees, I am here to grow. Like the mountains, here to stand. Like time, I'm here to be and be everything I can.
Like the champ, I'm here to fight. Like the heart, I'm here to love.
Like a ladder, I'm here to climb, and like the air, to rise above.
Like the wind, I'm here to push. Like a rope, I'm here to pull. Like the rain, I'm here to pour and drip and fall until I'm full.
Like the moon, I'm here to dream. Like the students, I'm here to learn.
Like the water, here to swell. Like the fire, here to burn. Like the winner, I'm here to win, and if I don't, I'll get up again.
I know that I may sometimes cry, but even then I'm here to try.
I'm not meant to be like you. You're not meant to be like me. Sometimes we will get along, and sometimes we will disagree.
I know that we don't look the same. Our skin, our eyes, our hair, our frame.
But that does not dictate our worth. We both have places on this earth. And in the end, we are right here to live a life of love, not fear.
To help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough.
To help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough.
To help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough.
To help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough.
So here's what pops into my head when I think about being true to yourself: integrity, beliefs, personal values, honesty, sincerity, unwavering principles, being complete, authentic, living by what is and what is not acceptable to you, morals, ethics, right and wrong, honor, not being false, truth. The words feel good to me: positive, healthy, strong, peaceful, and happy. So it seems being true to yourself is a good thing. Being true to yourself starts with knowing who you are and accepting yourself, knowing your strengths, passions, limitations, and purpose in life, and then living that way all the time. You come to know yourself only by living life, finding what works for you, what defines you and makes you whole. Being true to yourself is a personal choice for truth, making choices about how you want to live. You have the total power to live your life any way you want and to be faithful and factual to the truth about you. Being true to yourself means you don't worry about pleasing other people, living by someone else's standards or rules. You don't care what people think of you. You live as your natural self, without compromise. No one can tell you how to be true to yourself except you. Here is how author and spiritualist Don Miguel Ruiz describes it. Be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Can you really live one way? Start examining your life and see if every single situation you're involved with is healthy for you in your mind and heart. Ask, am I being true to myself here? If not, find out why, and then change it. Go ahead and tell the truth about yourself to everyone. In the process of speaking your truth, you'll garner something wonderful: authenticity, living your values and your beliefs. Please join us in singing hymn number 124, Be That Guide.
Be that guide whom love sustains, rise above the daily strife, lift on high the good you find, help to heal the hurts of life. Be that helper nothing daunts, doubt of friend or taunt of foe, ever strive for liberty, show the path that life should go. Be that builder trusting good, bitter though the test may be, through all ages they are right, show they build in agony. Be that teacher faith directs, move beyond the old frontier, though the frightened fear that faith be tomorrow's pioneer.
Steve found this essay in the junior high level Our Whole Lives Sexuality Education curriculum. It's written by Kai Allams, who was a member of the women's basketball team at George Washington University. It was originally published in the NCAA Inclusion of Transgender Student Athletes in 2011. Kai writes, "When I first had the feeling of being uncomfortable when someone would call me a lady, I did some research to try to figure out what that feeling could possibly mean. The first thing that I came across was the term transsexual, which is when a person's sex doesn't match their gender identity, and they have taken the steps possible, like surgery and hormones, so that their sex and gender will match. I read about many different terms and definitions, and the one that I could relate to the most was transgender, which just means that your gender and your body don't match. After I had a word to describe what I was feeling, I started getting extremely distressed when other people would refer to me as she, or hearing people refer to me and a group of women as ladies, or seeing the label women's outside my locker room. The feeling of having someone call you something that you know you are not is the most frustrating, uncomfortable feeling ever. Even though I was feeling so bad, it was very hard for me to build up enough courage to say anything, because I was afraid that other people wouldn't accept me. After freshman year, I told my closest teammates that I identify as a guy. At first, they laughed and thought it was a joke, and I couldn't bring myself to correct them. But over time, it got to the point where it was unbearable to keep living like this. So I finally began correcting my friends and teammates every time they would refer to me as she or her. When my friends and close teammates saw the pain and sadness it caused me when people referred to me using female pronouns, they began to use male pronouns and to correct others for me. Their respect for what I wanted to be called meant the world to me and still does. Without their support, I would not be playing basketball right now."
The October special collection will benefit the West Suburban Community Pantry. The pantry operates year-round with a goal that each eligible family in DuPage County, Bolingbrook, and Romeoville receives nutritionally balanced food, including meats, dairy, and fresh produce monthly. They are also registered as an emergency food pantry for Illinois. And with the help of volunteers and sponsors, the pantry's vision is to eradicate hunger in the DuPage County area. They are dedicated to providing food for the hungry, educating the donor community about existing needs, and supporting advocacy efforts for the hungry. They also work hard to encourage volunteerism and the sharing of resources. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values.
Throughout our lives, we are learning who we are. We are learning to be who we are. Throughout our lives, we learn to be our true selves and to be true to ourselves. Unitarian Universalist minister and poet Nancy Schaefer wrote, "This making of a whole self takes such a very long time. Pieces are not sequential, nor are supplies. We work here, then there, hold up tattered fabric to the light, sew past dark, intent, use all our thread. Sleeves may come before length, buttons before a rounded neck. We sew at what most needs us, and as it asks, sew again. The self is not one thing once made unaltered, not midnight task alone, not after other work. It's everything we come upon, make ours. All this fitting of what once was and has become." Our essential selves are shaped by our experiences. Our experiences, negative or positive, help us become who we are. We long to be recognized, named, loved for ourselves. I attended a workshop where participants were asked to gather in small groups to talk about some of the passwords that had been passed on to them as children by their elders. For all three people in the group I was in, "Do your best" was one of the messages we received from our families. I was surprised to hear that the other two people in my group, for them, "Do your best" was a painful message. Both of them heard the words as criticism. Both of them understood the words "do your best" to mean what you're doing now is not good enough. But that's not the message I heard. My mother's words to me were, "Do your best, angels can do no better." It took me a while to understand what those words meant, since I was pretty sure that my mother didn't believe in the kind of angels that had halos and harps. But I always felt the unconditional love and encouragement behind the words. I understood my mother's words to mean that if I truly did my best at what I set out to do, it wouldn't be just good enough, it wouldn't be just something to settle for. I understood my mother's words to be a vote of confidence, meaning that if I truly did my best, that would be good by any measure. Jewish social philosopher Martin Buber told stories about a rabbi named Zusha. In this story, Zusha died and went to stand before God so that his life could be judged. As he waited for God to appear, Zusha began to worry that he had not done enough in his life. Rabbi Zusha began to imagine that God was going to ask him, "Why were you not Moses?" But when God appeared, the rabbi was surprised. God simply asked, "Why were you not Zusha?" This story reinforces for me that our task is not only to be ourselves, but to be our own best selves. I learned the expression "perfect enough" from a congregant who worked for Hewlett-Packard, where President and CEO Carly Fiorina introduced the concept as a way to take advantage of market opportunities by launching a product when it was perfect enough, rather than getting bogged down worrying about whether it met the theoretical ideal of perfection. The paradox of humanity is that we are perfectly imperfect. We are perfect enough when we embrace our own humanness, when we embrace our own humanity. The trick is to say, "I'm only human, nobody's perfect," not with resignation or complacency, but with the affirmation of our own inherent worth and dignity, as imperfect human beings who are yet striving to be ourselves at our best. As we are loved, we can love ourselves. As we love ourselves, we can love others. Our closing hymn is number 128, for all that is our life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
As we extinguish the chalice flame, we carry its light in our hearts. May we let our lights shine. May we live our lives fully and creatively so that we may be a blessing to ourselves, to each other, and to all those whose lives we touch.